Welcome to RotoWire. All right, welcome back, everybody. Jim Coventry, Fantasy Football Live, RotoWire. Going to make sure I can. The settings are coming through. I think I'm working now, but my mic had been clicked off. All right, let's get at it here. We're anyway. Adam Thompson coming in, bottom of the hour, bookies.com. We're going to talk some NFL free picks. We're going to break down those games as well, so give you a lot of actionable advice. As always, I'll break down the Thursday night game, give you some player trends that'll help you in fantasy, DFS, and also prop betting. All right, and remember, please give me a follow at Jim Coventry NFL. I will post threads throughout the weekend. I'm doing a game day thread every Sunday now. That thread should get you some actionable advice heading into the lineup setting phase last minute, and then the start sit show on Sunday at 11. Please join me for that. All right, Bills, Buccaneers, and trade deadlines coming up on Halloween, Tuesday. Hearing unfounded rumors right now that the Bills may be targeting Derrick Henry in a trade. Might be nice, but they really need defensive help is what they need. Right now, no Matt Milano for the season, no Tre'Davious White. Daquan Jones, I'm not sure. I remember how long he's out for, if it's the season or it's just a IR short-term thing. But right now, that defense is not getting it done to the level they need to. And when they play playoff-type teams, they are going to need to bring it on defense. So if they're going to make a trade, they should be targeting a defensive player, in my opinion. Josh Allen's getting them enough points. That's not a problem. They're scoring enough. They shouldn't need to upgrade the offense beyond that. But if that's the route they choose to go, Derrick Henry would be the early down back. James Cook would be the receiving back at that point. And Cook would lose a lot of his fantasy value, and because they're not throwing a ton of passes to their running backs, and it would be messy. And, Derrick Henry at this stage of his career, he'll get free yards before contact, so that'll definitely help. But anyway, we'll see what happens. So let's talk about the game. So Josh Allen, look, he gets it done again, even when he doesn't have a good NFL game, which he was fine here, absolutely fine. When he doesn't have a good NFL game, he still cashes for fantasy. So Josh Allen has been a great fantasy choice. We don't care from a fantasy perspective what it looks like, but he tore it up against Tampa Bay. And we said, I did my pregame thread on Twitter yesterday. Hopefully you were able to check that out. But I did point out the Bucs are going to blitz a lot. That's Todd Bowles. But I also mentioned the Bills' offensive line in pass pro has been very good this year. And they held up. They gave Allen plenty of time. Now, blitzes lead to coverage breakdowns. And Gabe Davis wide open for a touchdown. I don't think there was anybody within 7 yards of him on that touchdown. Maybe one of his teammates was within 7 yards. Obviously not a threat to the touchdown. Great for Gabe Davis. But Josh Allen, 324, a couple touchdowns, runs for 41 and a touchdown. It's an elite fantasy performance. That's what you paid for on draft day. Very happy that works out. James Cook, fine enough. Almost 5 yards per carry. But for PPR, he caught one pass for 6 yards. Doesn't find the end zone. He did get a couple of red zone touches that I remember, one for sure. And so he ends up with 73 total yards and a catch, 8.3 PPR points. You're not going to scream from the mountaintops from that, but it's a floor game, and he's going to have those. It's not a terrible floor game. Latavius Murray, he got his opportunities. Now, the snap share, though, James Cook dominated 67-33. We were seeing Cook consistently getting half of the work, and then Murray and before IR, Damian Harris. But last week, Murray just sucked up that work. He went up to 45%. So when I went in this game, I said, well, Murray's a good flex play. He gets 5 carries. He gets a target. 5 carries go for 7 yards. Did nothing. He had a red zone carry. Wasn't able to cash on that one. Again, it might have been more than one, but I just top of my head, I remember seeing that. So that said, no, he just laid an egg for fantasy. If you needed Murray in a deep league as a flex, didn't work out. But nobody saw the snap share going down because he was getting almost half. So that was like a little reduction that was kind of unexpected. Diggs does what Diggs does. Every game, he's going to get you double-digit targets most weeks. Floor game for him. The touchdowns went to other players like Gabe Davis and Dalton Kincaid. So, but 9 for 70, floor game for Diggs. Nobody's complaining with 16 PPR points. You'd love 30, but you get that. Gabe Davis gets 12 targets. And the targets, he had been a lot of games at 5 and 6. He'd have occasional spike games, but Gabe Davis ends up 12 stinking targets, 9 for 87. Great matchup ended up being for him. Did extremely well. Had great open looks. Khalil Shakir for the next few weeks should be fantasy relevant. Now, here's the deal. Dawson Knox is on IR for 4 weeks. He does a lot of blocking. Now, Quentin Morris, who also is a blocker, was out for the game. And so the Bills had no option but to go from their 2 tight end looks to going to 3 receiver looks. And so that was how. Now, the other thing that's important here is that Shakir finally, overwhelmingly, out-snapped Trent Sherfield. Last week, it was 34 to 23%, but now it was 65 to 32. So Shakir was playing in 3 receiver sets, and now Quentin Morris is a blocker. And it's possible that he comes in back next week, and while Knox is out, he plays a significant amount of snaps. But for their offensive viability, again, defense is when the Bills are going to heavy sets. They're playing nickel. They don't care. They fine, run the ball. We're still playing against the pass because you have Josh Allen. So I think they're going to lean into the Khalil Shakir thing. He had 4 targets last week, 6 this week, goes 6 for 92. Defenses can't spend any focus on him. I thought last year when we had flashes, he can play. He's a very good slot receiver. He'll occasionally line up outside. But I think now obviously there'll be the free agency. Most leagues he's on waivers until the period next week. But I think that if you need receiver help in the next few weeks, I think you take a look at Shakir, because at least while Knox is out, I think it's a minimum of 4 targets, and it could be closer to the 6 we saw in this game. Dalton Kincaid, so now it's the second straight game where he saw targets. Last week, I said, hey, we got to be careful. He was only getting 2 to 5 targets a game. He had 8 last week. It was a wild game against New England. They were chasing points late. I said, you got to wait and see it again before you believe it, because the track record of the first 6 weeks taught us one thing. And 8 for 75 wasn't like the mother of all breakout games. But he comes back with 7 targets here, 5 for 65 and a touchdown. So I didn't, and I don't think the Dawson Knox absence increased the target share for Kincaid, because the point is Shakir came in and they changed their formation. But Kincaid may be getting more comfortable in the offense. Maybe he's getting the nuance of handling zone defense, and maybe now his number's going to get called more. So right now, based on 2 straight games, we know the pedigree he has. I believe that we take Dalton Kincaid and we move him real close to that tight end 1, if not in that tight end 1 range, because he is playing in a Josh Allen offense that is going to score points out of necessity. Now, it'll be interesting, though, if they do make that conjecture move and they go for Derrick Henry, they're going to have to run a little bit more than they did. And maybe that's their way of protecting the defense. Maybe by not adding a defensive player, if they decide to run the ball more, they could go game script wise and keep their defense off the field. I don't know if they're going to trade for him, but again, that's something to pay attention to as we near the waiver period next week. The trade deadline should go off before most people's waivers clear, so be cognizant of that. The Buccaneers side of the ball, so I had Baker Mayfield as a top 13 quarterback this week. I mentioned that in my maybe the thread. I don't remember if I put it in the thread or I was responding to somebody on the X, but I did mention, and I imagine Mayfield's numbers do end up as a top 13. He's 237 and 2 touchdowns, no picks. He runs for 19 yards. So he should end up right about where we projected him. We talked about it. And in the thread, we went over that Mayfield has had great protection. They've used play action well. He really navigates the pocket well on many occasions. Able to move, step up in the pocket, sense the pressure. Mayfield is impressive. And he has those great weapons. He has Evans and he has Godwin, and they didn't go off. But Mayfield, and the 2-point conversion, I imagine in most leagues gets you 2 points there. So now you're looking, he may have had 24 fantasy points in a lot of leagues. And it was a road game. But again, they can't run block, but the pass pro has been great. And Dave Canales, he's been dialing up near league high rate of play action. And that gives Mayfield that nanosecond. Now, look, the Bills were bringing a lot of heat. They were blitzing. And Mayfield stood tall. Was it a dominant effort? No. And oh my gosh, the prop, I recommended the prop on the thread as well, over 228. He was like he was 10 yards short. And they held on the 4th and 2 or 3rd and 2 at the end of the game. They got the punt back with like 20 seconds, and Mayfield was able to go over to 237. Luck, hey, we don't complain about luck because luck goes both ways, right? But Mayfield ends up cashing that prop. And actually, I had prize picks. I also, when I knew that Vita Vea was out, I did a 2-player prize picks prop. I went with Baker Mayfield over 232. They had him higher than 228 prop. I bet at DraftKings, so we went over that. And then I bet the over on, it was about 50-ish yards for James Cook. He went 67, so we cashed there. But now back to Rachaad White. Again, I told people he's going to get volume. You start him. And 7 targets. Last week it was 6 targets. So he is just loading up the targets. And 7 catches, 70 yards. Last week he caught all 6 for 65. Defenses have to worry about Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. There's always going to be leak out opportunities there. So 82% of the snaps. Now, Keyshawn Vaughn was getting 25% or so of the snaps. He got relegated. Chase Edmonds came back from IR. 3 carries, 5 yards, 2 catches, 60. He got interfered on when they didn't call it. Could have had another catch there. But Edmonds also, it looks fine. And I've been saying all along, Chase Edmonds, and I'm going to say this again. Last year with Miami, he didn't understand the system. He was terrible. He was always a plus player in Arizona. Well, last year he got traded. He had a high ankle sprain. He finished the last couple games with Denver. He looked like the same back he did in Arizona. I still believe Chase Edmonds is going to get a chance in this backfield, and it's going to be a significant chance. I believe he's a better player than Rachaad White. That sample in Miami skews everybody to the negative, saying he's a bum. He's not. He's a good player. He's healthy now. So to speak, he'll have fresher legs. I know it was he had like an MCL injury, but he's back and he's a full go, mini bye. I think he gets a higher snap share coming back in his next game. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get 30% of the snaps next week. And if he plays well, he could easily cut into White. And White, again, is just, as a running back, not great. They're okay getting him in space as a receiver. I believe Edmonds could do a lot more in the receiving game. We'll see what happens. Edmonds is a speculative ad. You still could probably get him on waivers in a lot of leagues. I'm in, obviously, either I have him or someone else does, but those are deeper leagues, so nothing there. Mike Evans, fine. Floor game, 3 for 39. He catches a late touchdown, bails him out. 12.9 PPR points. Nobody's complaining about that. Mateo and Uncle Ted, welcome in. And Chris Godwin, he had touchdown potential in the last couple games. One play was a little off. I believe one was broken up, but he's been a regularly targeted player in the red zone. He gets in this game. And so 5 for 54, again, fine game. What you want. Where you drafted him, if you're going to tell me you're getting 16.4 PPR points, you take that all day. He has been improving. In his last game, he was 6 for 66 on 12 targets. So he's definitely upping the floor. He's a floor play, but he has touchdown potential. And we saw the one game where Evans went out. He went over 100 yards. So Chris Godwin is what you paid for. We're hoping for more. And as the season goes on, we might get more. Baker Mayfield could become more and more comfortable with him. And other than that, Trey Palmer's getting snaps, but not much production. 64% last week, 81% of the snaps this week. He had 1 for 5 last week, 3 for 22 this week. So snaps, yes. Production, not so much. His best value would probably be if Evans or Godwin's were to miss time. So that would probably be it. And Cade Otton. Cade Otton now 6 and 7 targets in the last 2 weeks. Not doing a ton with them. 4 for 27 in this game, a 2-point conversion. So there's that. If you need a second tight end in the league, right now he's bordering that because of the target opportunities. I think he got interfered with that play, if I remember correctly. But 7 targets in 6. That's good volume. And he's always on the field. So there's that. And he is a big target in the red zone. And if they have favorable matchups, they could score more. So, again, I'm not saying Cade Otton's a world beater. I'm not saying you definitely don't need him in a one tight end league. You don't need him. But if you're in a league that's deep and you're at the point where you're just scraping and you need a second one for flex or, these 14-team leagues with 3 flexes I'm in, that tight ends are viable flexes. So he's in that discussion. All right. If you're enjoying the show, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button. If you're on RotoWire YouTube, please consider giving a follow on the X at Jim Coventry NFL. Again, I'm doing game day threads now where I'm going some late last minute actionable advice on almost something on each game that you can look at for either fantasy, DFS, or prop betting. I will do prop betting threads throughout the weekend. I'll be on the Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio 87 this weekend. I'll be on Saturday with Mario Puig 1 to 3 Eastern. Sunday 9 to 10 Eastern with Alan Soslowski. We'll go over all the late game inactives for that. Oh, yeah. Mateo, this is the Kings Classic shirt for this week. Every year we get a new one. I'll move that over a little bit, but I love this. Kings Classic is my favorite league. It's the one I care about. It's like, you're in leagues, but I care about that one. It's with a bunch of my competitors, and I enjoy all of them. But all right, let's take a couple quick looks here. Uncle Ted, Bijan, Barkley, Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, Jonathan Taylor, and you got to pick three. I don't know if Ken Walker's playing. He's missed 2 practices with a calf. So right now, thank you, Mateo. Appreciate that. So right now, I mean, that's probably more like a Saturday question because I don't know his status. But right now, look, Jonathan Taylor, the work's going up each week. They're paying him $42 million over 3 years, so he's going to get the ball. And the matchup's a little tougher. I don't care. In the interior line is blocking very well. We're starting Jonathan Taylor every week. Barkley, very hard to sit him. He's getting rushing and receiving work. And honestly, I have Breece Hall as a top 4 running back this week against the Giants. I think he takes off and has a big game here. I don't care if the run blocking's bad. Breece Hall shows doesn't matter with him. So those are the 3 right now I'm playing. If Ken Walker is a full go today in practice, we revisit it later. Bijan right now, we can make a case for him over Barkley against the Jets, but I still think Barkley's volume, and I still think there's a great chance he cashes a touchdown in this game. So there's that, and I know he'll probably get 4 to 6 targets in this game. So would hate, and they get their left tackle back, so there's that. All right, let's see what else we got here. Mateo, if you went to a casino right now in Nevada, can you bet on a team making it to the championship but not winning it? Yes. Yes, you can. It's like AFC winner or NFC winner. You definitely could get that bet in. All right, let's go back. Now we're going to go through some player trends here, get you ready for some of the Week 8 fantasy football. Remember, bottom of the hour, Adam Thompson of Bookies.com coming in. We're going to break down a few games for gambling. Adam will give you his picks. Adam is a documented winner gambler from Bookies.com and my teammate with Gambling.com, who RotoWire is with as well. All right, Matthew Stafford playing the Cowboys this week. Stafford has been an outstanding NFL quarterback this year, getting the ball out quickly, taking advantage of his best weapons. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua primarily. Earlier in the season, it was Tutu Atwell, but now, obviously, Atwell and Higbee have taken a back seat with Nacua and Kupp dominating targets. I remember Matthew Stafford when he only had Nacua. He didn't have Kupp in that game. And I remember in that Cincinnati game on the Monday night, Lou Anarumo brought some heat, schemed up some pressure, and Stafford struggled a bit in that game. And that was with a Cincinnati defense that's very flawed this year. Now, Dallas, they're going to bring some real heat on Matthew Stafford in this one. And it's in Dallas here. And Dallas has now, first, the Rams are a good team. All right. But their offensive line, they can be had. Dallas, their key to their game is to get that quick pressure and make Stafford get the ball even quicker than he wants to. Now, Cooper Kupp's going to be open. Puka Nacua is going to be open. This is where the rub point is, because the whole thing is McVay gets him open quickly. But we see if you get pressure super quick, it can get Stafford rattled a bit. And that could be problematic. This is a nerve-wracking game. And remember, Stafford for fantasy, he has exactly 1 touchdown in 3 of his last 4 games. He hasn't been a regular, multi-touchdown fantasy option. And I don't like the matchup at Dallas. This could get ugly. And if the Rams have to become one-dimensional, and remember, at this point, they're rolling out Darrell Henderson, Royce Freeman. Dallas might be able to contain that because as well as their run blocking's been, there's only so much you could do with these guys, right? And so that could make it problematic. Now, Dallas hasn't been covering great. Stephon Gilmore looks like an aging player. He hasn't been dominant this year. Jordan Lewis, corner, not playing at the level we've seen. Deron Bland, haven't seen enough of him to really give you the best on him. But Jordan Lewis has not been what he was. He covered a slot a lot. Not been playing great. So, But I still think Stafford's in for a rough one here. But remember, I just don't think Stafford's an upside play for fantasy now. Again, he hasn't been that player all year. A decent floor play, but that's about it. 2 quarterback league option. I don't think in a 1 quarterback league, you really want to look at him if you have that better option. Running backs, Emari, Demercado. So it was weird, right? 2 weeks ago, people blew their fab on him. Leads the team in snaps, 43%, I believe. And then what happens? Oh, he gets 3 touches. While Damian Williams gets like 9. And Keontae Ingram gets double-digit touches. And now people dump Demercado. Well, he went back last week, 80% of the snaps, 13 carries, 5 targets. Ingram sees nothing. Damian Williams, a touch or 2, and that's it. So people throw their hands up. What do we do? Look, Demercado at least led in snaps 2 weeks ago, even though he wasn't utilized. My guess is he's the guy this week, but they're playing Baltimore. It's not a good matchup. And Baltimore has been, despite injuries, one of the best defenses in the league. Mike McDonald, the defensive coordinator, switches looks up. Makes it very difficult for an offense to get on track. Now, people are going to be worried. There's a cross-country road trip. There's that. That's never easy. And then we're also looking at the point, I don't think it's a letdown game for Baltimore. Baltimore played Detroit. I think the media and the public made that a big game because these are 2 teams that are huge, I'll say playoff contenders. Some consider them Super Bowl contenders. And I don't know where they fall with this. I think that Detroit's close. I think Baltimore's close. But I think that if the Lions play the Eagles or the 49ers in January, I don't know they get through them. And Baltimore, kind of the same. I don't know they get through a Kansas City. But hey, call them what they will. But back to the point. Tough matchup for Demercado here. So there's that. And again, we're not guaranteed he's getting the work again because it's too fresh. The Band-Aid being ripped off when he had the 3 touches. So I think you start him as a flex if you're desperate, but you can't say with any certainty or safety he's going to continue to be the guy. I know. I wish I had a better answer, but the coaches made that really tough. Brian Robinson. This one's getting tough because realistically, he is not getting it done as a runner. Fantasy, he's almost getting it done. We saw some receptions. We saw 4 for 33 a few weeks ago. We saw 2 for 25 and a touchdown a couple weeks ago. 1 target last week, but no running backs hardly get receiving damage against the Giants. So we throw it out. But otherwise, he hasn't had any type of real ceiling. The week he scored the touchdown on the reception, it was like 14 fantasy points, PPR. Last week, 14 because he got the touchdown on the ground. He had the receiving one 2 weeks ago. So he's got to get a touchdown to cash. Otherwise, he's a floor play. You're hoping for 8 to 12 points out of him. If he gets more, you just throw the confetti in the air and say you won. But this matchup against Philly, this is a rough one. Philly's been elite against the run. And Brian Robinson's carries 6, 10, and 8. And we saw Chris Rodriguez get involved last week. So right now, low RB2 for some volume out of Brian Robinson. Probably best as a flex, but I'm very concerned. Right now, and then last year we certainly understood the poor man had been shot and he came back quickly. And so, we didn't know if recovery was a problem. But right now, he had a few good weeks early in the season. He looked great, but right now he looks very ordinary. And the defense, they can't stop the pass, middling against the run. I think game script is going to be not a friend of Brian Robinson going forward. Wide receivers, Jacoby Myers. He's real. In this offense, he's real. And I don't know if Devontae Adams is getting traded or not. I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, right now, it would be wise for the Raiders to trade him. I can't say with any certainty they're going to do that or not. But when we think about this, if Devontae Adams on the field, and I mentioned this before, he's going to get bracketed often. When he gets bracketed, the problem that's going to happen is that Adams isn't going to get those tight window throws because Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't like making those. And we're going to see the ball go instead to Myers. Now, they both got targets last week. They were playing the Bears. I said they wouldn't have to worry about that. So anyway, but his targets, he's averaging like 10 targets. That's going to continue. He's a big red zone factor. He scored in 3 straight games. So right now, for sure, he's a top 30 receiver. He might even be a tick higher than that. But he is for real. And the Raiders, They're going to give up points. They're going to have to chase in a lot of games. So, yes, Jakobi Meyers, locked in wide receiver 3. And again, some people make a case. Maybe he ends up being a wide receiver 2 when it's all said and done. But I'm comfortable calling him a 3. Rashee Rice. So the targets haven't been great. 4, 5, and 6 over the last 3 weeks. Snap share, off each of the last 3 weeks. He went from 30% to 49 to 59. That's going up. And he's winning in different, they're using him in different places in the formation right now. He is definitely picking up the offense. He's picking up the nuances of beating zone defenses, which is mostly what the Chiefs see. And he hasn't had the monster game yet. I'm certain he's rostered in most leagues. In the long shot, you're in a small league and he's not. Make sure that's not the case. But I think Rashee Rice, he's also not in the Jakobi Meyers bucket, whereas Jakobi Meyers is like a strong wide receiver 3 at the top of that. Right now, Rashee Rice is in, because you're only getting 4 to 6 targets a game. So he's in the bottom of that wide receiver 3 bucket. So like a 36, top 36-ish to maybe 40 receiver. But that could move up in a hurry. I don't see it going down. I do not see it going down. And I think he's going to be continuing to see red zone looks. Scored twice in the last 3 games. We're going to continue to see that. George Pickens is next. So what I learned was we started to see some clue. Do I give Matt Canada credit? Maybe. I mentioned in my article last week, they're still unwatchable, but in the fourth quarter last week, they did play better. Late third into the fourth, they played better. Well, George Pickens normally was running a lot of those sideline routes. They throw him fades. They throw him deep shots. Over the year, we've seen a few more targets where he's getting used going into the middle of the field. That changes the equation for him because the thing is, defenses knew how to defend him. Basically, okay, you know he's staying on the sideline, so you could kind of not worry about the middle of the field of him. So you didn't have to really roll a safety because unless you had a particular reason to go over the top, but you defended him differently because you knew it was a limited usage they were going to see of him. But now we've seen the maturation of the offense, and his last 2 games, he's over 100 yards. So right now with them weaponizing him a bit more, yeah, he's for real. George Pickens is an elite talent. We saw him last year as a 50-50 ball guy, which is an 80-20 ball guy because he was so good at it. But right now, they're at least utilizing him more. And he has 8 and 10 targets in his last 2 games. So right now, George Pickens from week 5 going forward, obviously the bye week, you don't play that week. So, but per game from week 5 on, don't be surprised if George Pickens ends up in the top 20 receiver discussion. And people might be sour enough on Pittsburgh offense where you might be able to make a trade offer for him and maybe pry him away for a reasonable cost. It's something to consider. It's definitely something to consider. All right, Odell Beckham is next. Last week, we showed concern. He hadn't seen many targets. The production was there. And I know early in the season, he drew some pass interference calls. Beautiful. It was a great thing. But we saw a little bit of production last week against Detroit. 7 targets, caught 5 for 49. First time he looked good and productive. The productive part's more ago because he looked good earlier, but he was on and off injured in games, not quite right. He looked good. And at this point, he's getting closer to being a flex option. We can't just say the 5 for 49, he's there because he hadn't been there before. But I think he's bordering flex opportunity because that offense is starting to pick up. And Lamar Jackson's been great, but he's dealt with a lot of drops. Receivers haven't been great. Bateman looked good despite the numbers last week, so that things could improve there. So I think there could be a trajectory for this offense. But this week, yeah, I think we're looking in good shape for here. Let's see. Peter, Dallas or San Francisco, Giants. We're probably talking defense, special teams here. I'd go with Dallas. I would go with Dallas. I think they're going to bring a lot of heat on Stafford this week. And they're at home. I think they could take advantage of them. And then, Mateo, do you drop Elijah Moore and Dotson? So, yeah, Elijah Moore is getting a lot of targets, but he's not doing anything with them. They're not getting him into space well enough. So that probably he's just a floor play, PPR floor play. And if there's something better on the waiver wire, get rid of him. Dotson, unfortunately, not his fault, but I don't see Sam Howell getting the ball to him enough. I know it was a drop touchdown last week. There's that, but not real excited right now because it's just the Sam Howell thing. he likes the middle of the field, and that's a lot of Logan Thomas and Curtis Samuel. He has his elf on the outside, and that's Terry McLaurin. So McLaurin's going to see his work. The odd man out in this offense is unfortunately Dotson, who's the second most talented player. I'm going to give McLaurin the nod still because I believe McLaurin's a superstar. McLaurin had played on a great offense during his career. I can't even imagine the numbers he would have put up. McLaurin's like an elite player. Dotson will get there. But anyway, yeah, you probably could drop him. You probably, again, depending on the waiver wire. Dotson for sure. Elijah Moore, he's going to get a floor for you. So again, depending what's in the waiver wire. Marquise Brown. So he's been a solid play all year, but the last couple games, 3 for 49, 4 for 34. Again, like 7+ points PPR. Fine. He had scored some touchdowns prior to that. Kyler Murray's going to come back, and Murray does get him the ball. I don't know what shape Murray's in. I don't know what his mobility is going to be like, but I do know he'll get the ball to Marquise Brown. So I think I would buy this week against Baltimore. I'm not excited, but it looks like we're close to seeing Kyler Murray come back. So I think there's a buy time on Marquise Brown. If you could put an offer and try to acquire him from another team, we've seen him play at a top 20 receiver level. And I don't know why we couldn't see that again. He's already been solid all year with Joshua Dobbs. It's just that offense is getting figured out pretty quick. But again, Murray does give him a jump for sure. And Murray will get the ball downfield. Romeo Dobbs, we were worried about him. The volume, the team only passes when they're in competitive games, like 20 times a game. And then there are games in their trail and they throw more. But the problem is, it's just competing with too many for other targets. Adam Thompson, happy Friday. Welcome in. We're in week 8.
Holy cow, just like that. Blink of an eye, right? It's like, they say having kids is, the days are long, but the years are short. It's kind of like the same thing with the NFL, right?
Oh, my God. It's so awesome.
Thing you know.
I had one prop last night, and I got lucky on it. I don't care about lucky because lucky cashes, but it was Kyler Murray over 228 yards. He stuck at 217. There's like 2 minutes left in the game. Buffalo has the ball. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And then they hold him on 3rd and 2, little punt, throws for another 20-something yards, and the sweat, right? It's all about the sweat, isn't it?
Yep. I went 3-0 yesterday, and Baker on the over was one of mine. So I was, just keep passing, at the end there, and that was good. And I had Buccaneers +9, so that did all right. And I had Josh Allen over on yards.
Oh, nice.
Rushing yards.
He went over on both anyway. Wouldn't have mattered.
He went over on both, right? So, that was a nice profitable 3-0 +300 kind of day. Good way to start. Good way to start the week.
Absolutely, it is. Adam Thompson is with bookies.com. The family of companies I work with, gambling.com with RotoWire. We're company brothers. Adam, as I always tell you, watch who you're getting your gambling advice from. Adam is a documented winner. He's been at this a long time. You remember him back in the days of Sportsline and CBS. Call him the OG of Next Team Odds, Style over Substance, the ATM. But Adam is with you every Friday, and you'll always listen to him because you love his analysis, and you also love that he cashes at a very high rate. Adam, we're ready to get into some games here. I'm very excited for the Monday night games. We got the Raiders at the Lions. The Raiders, predictably, after 2 good wins, went into Chicago, and if there was a letdown spot ever, it was there against Tyson Bagent. And the Lions, they got their lunch handed to them against the Ravens. They played the big boys, and they got beat up. How do you see this game shaking out?
Yeah, this is the big boy that the Lions will be facing here. They're back to Cupcake City, which went very well for them. Before they had, I don't know if they got exposed or just kind of one of those weeks where everything bad happened at the same time. But, they had won 4 in a row, all of them by at least 2 touchdowns prior to that beatdown by the Ravens. So, I think, if there's any coach that can fire up the troops and get them back on track and get them mad and angry, it's Coach Campbell. In Detroit. And, this is the first Monday night game in like 6 years in Detroit. So I think they're going to bounce back. I think they're going to be ready. I think they can attack this defense. The Lions have scored 30+ points in half their games. So I think they can get back on that track. And then you look on the other side, the Raiders, they just got beat by a Division II quarterback making his first ever start as a rookie. That's unfortunate for them because now Jared Goff and his slew of weaponry on the turf in Detroit is the next matchup. And offensively, I think Garoppolo, it sounds like he'll play this week. He should be back. But either way, they haven't scored more than 21 points in a game, regardless of who's the quarterback, all year. So that's extremely it's just a rough matchup. If they score 21, they're not going to cover. They're not going to win. So I like Detroit. I think they're the side to take. If you can get it at -8, once it gets past -9, then it might be just kind of I don't know. Even -10, then you certainly don't want to touch it. But -8, I think that's a playable number.
And Goff at home has been insane. It's been since last year. Just indoors is always a huge boost. And again, we have his offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, always scheming a quick read open. And that was the problem last week. Realistically, Mike McDonald, the defensive coordinator of the Ravens, this guy needs to be a head coach soon, because what he does, he's very good at disguising looks. He brings a lot of different looks. And that's where Jared Goff is not comfortable. Jared Goff needs to kind of know the predictability of what's coming, his offensive coordinator making him comfortable. And Mike McDonald took all that comfort away. And for fantasy, everybody was happy with the receivers. And it works because they got it all done when the Ravens had the game out of hand and didn't care. But Goff never got it done in that one. So that was it. But this week, like you're saying, the Raiders don't have those luxuries. They don't have that level of coaching, that level of talent. So you are spot on this one. The Lions should roll at home. And I like your point about Dan Campbell, because his job as a motivator, that's probably his greatest trait as a coach. So you are all over the Lions. Go right ahead, minus the points here.
And this team has overachieved under Campbell over the 2 years. If you look at against the spread, it kind of overachieving versus underachieving kind of benchmark. Last year they didn't win a lot of games. They were the best covering team in the league. Since he's been there, he gets the team to play regardless of what anybody else thinks.
Now, before we get to the next game, Mateo just made a comment that Daniel Jones was ruled out. I wonder if he's ruled out because, you know what? You're okay, but let's give you another week. Tyrod Taylor makes us a better team. Is that what's going on here? Or maybe is it just Daniel Jones is probably still hurt?
That's a good question. Daniel Jones didn't do a ton to really warrant. There hasn't been that much of a fall off with Tyrod. Daniel Jones runs a little more, but does he hold on to the ball a little more? I don't know. I mean, he was getting killed back there the way Tyrod Taylor isn't getting killed back there. So there's got to be something to that. I don't think the offensive line just is playing harder with Tyrod Taylor back there, but clear what Tyrod's doing is working. I mean, keep in mind, last week they won a game, they scored 14 points. So It's not like he's the next coming. It's not like Tom Brady coming in for Drew Bledsoe or anything like that. But they're on a roll. You've won one straight. Don't change that, right?
What I will say is the Giants' defense in the last 2 weeks, the blitzing is starting to work better. That I'll give them. They looked better defensively. When they played Buffalo, they held them down. So that's, I think, what the difference really is. Good call on that. Next game we're going to talk about is Texans-Panthers, the battle versus the first 2 picks in the draft. The Panthers getting to see the guy on the other sideline. Oh, that's the guy we could have had. And you wonder, I don't know if this plays into it, but C.J. Stroud's got to be saying, oh, yeah, these are guys that passed on me. I could have been the number 1 pick. Let me show them what I'm all about. Don't know. It's a bit narrative-driven. But all that said, Bryce Young certainly had his struggles. We'll see how he comes in against this upstart Texans defense. How do you break this game down, Adam?
Yeah, I think both quarterbacks have something they want to prove. Bryce Young has not played well, but he's getting better. And CJ Stroud is actually, I don't want to say going in the opposite direction, but his 2 worst games have been his last 2 games. And sometimes that happens with rookie quarterbacks. They're kind of unknowns when they come in. And he's a fantastic player, and he's going to be a great player. But eventually you get game tape on you, and these defensive coaches and players, they know what they're doing back there, and you show them enough things, and they're going to react. So I think we're seeing a bit of that kind of slide right now with Stroud and Bryce Young. The Panthers haven't won a game; they haven't covered a game yet. Right. But I think they're going to here. I'm going with Carolina. Houston, they're an impressive 3-3, but they were dramatically outgained their last game. Like I said, Stroud, I think defenses are kind of figuring it out. And Carolina has a bit of an X factor. They're coming off their bye. They're changing play callers.
Yes.
Frank Reich has demoted himself off of play calling duties. Offensive coordinator is now the guy. And that hurts Houston in terms of preparing for what's coming, because they don't know what's coming. And Carolina's had 2 weeks to figure out what they're bringing. So I think Bryce Young, his targets match up well with this Houston secondary, and I think they're gonna cover +3. I think that's a good number for a home dog.
All right, so Adam is calling the Panthers plus the points against the Texans in the 1 versus 2 quarterback showdown. Let's go next. So the Ravens, obviously, we talked about them against the Lions. They basically completely dismantled or took their teeth out, whatever you want to say with the Lions. And then now they go to the Cardinals.
Defanged or something.
Defanged, yes. That was the word
Do
we were
Lions have
looking
fangs?
for.
I guess those are fangs, right? They're not.
They have to be. But I don't want any part of them regardless. But yes, the Ravens got rid of them. So now they go cross-country trip here. My contention on this one, Adam, before you talk about this, I don't think the Ravens got especially up for that game against the Lions. To them, it was just a game on the schedule. The public thought, oh, it's a great game. Potential, long shot Super Bowl preview, but maybe in that realm. But I think the Ravens, they play big games all the time. They play in the AFC North. They're playing the Steelers. They're playing their hated Browns or the Bengals. They're the Chiefs, out of division, but they play them up. So to them, it was a business game. And my guess is it was like an NFC team. All right, we coach it up, but I don't think they were emotional. So I don't know if there's a letdown factor, but it's a cross-country trip against an opponent that has been exposed in the last few weeks. How do you see this shaking out?
Yeah, everything points to kind of Baltimore just kind of rolling if they show up and do their thing, because Arizona, they started off the season really strong. They lost 2 games by 4 and by 3. They were playing with teams. Then they beat Dallas in that shocker in week 3. Since then, though, they've lost 4 straight by an average of 15 points a game, all of them by double digits here. And now the Ravens, maybe the hottest team in the league, favored by only about 8.5, going to Arizona. Lamar Jackson, he's prone to kind of make boneheaded plays against bad teams, and this Ravens team is prone to kind of letting teams that they should hammer kind of hang. So this is a tough game. I'm leaning. I lean Ravens because just pound for pound, we've seen that what Arizona has turned into, and that is the worst team in the league. Through 3 weeks they were playing with people, and I think it's kind of like the CJ Stroud thing. You got the new coach in Arizona. You got this quarterback that who knows what he brings. Now James Conner's out. They're banged up kind of everywhere. And now we're seeing a team that's just getting beat by double digits literally every game that they played since week 3. So I think Baltimore continues that trend. They can win this game by 10, kind of sleepwalk its way, because I just think Arizona is going to struggle to score. I think they're going to struggle to stop Baltimore's run game. So you put those 2 things together, it's going to be a boring, slogging game, 24-13, something like that. I don't think it's going to be very exciting. I don't think Baltimore is going to win 41-6 like they could. But I think they're going to win and they're going to cover.
Mike McDonald, regardless, is going to do what he does. And once you show those looks that change very quickly to Joshua Dobbs, and I know he's super intelligent, but it's a matter of reps and not having seen and the level of speed that defense plays at. That's going to be a problem. And I'm with you on this one. I just think that even if they don't bring their A game, they are just so much better. And I don't like the cross-country trip, but this is a team that's been battle-tested. The coaches just understand how to handle us. So I'm with you on this one. I do think, like you said, I like how you said it's a kind of a slog-along game. Yes, but you're right. Yeah. At the end of the day, they should win this one by low double digits, which is enough to cash.
Right. It's a business trip. Kind of like what you said. It's Lamar Jackson, Harbaugh. They've been there before. Odell. All these guys have. This is a pretty veteran team. They have veteran leaders. And, they should look at it that way. Let's go into Arizona. Let's get it done. And by get it done, I win by 10. Don't win by 4. Don't hang around. Don't let Arizona have one last chance in the end and escape. Like, prove to yourself and to others that you're a contender in the AFC and the AFC North.
And the motivation is, look, they want the 1 seed. The 1 seed is really important. It's one team they get to buy. And if they could somehow edge out the Chiefs for that 1 seed, and if they play them, it's on their home field, that's a massive advantage. So I think they're going to be highly motivated in these down games. Let's go with one more. Let's go with the Rams and the Cowboys here. Adam, what I remember is the Monday night game against Cincinnati. Now, I know Cooper Kupp didn't play that game, but Lou Anarumo really brought some quick pressure and exposed that Rams line, because the line is okay, but if they're playing higher end pass rushes, they are in trouble. That said, now the Cowboys have the firepower, but we know that Kupp and Nakua can get open quickly. I think that is the break point in this game as to what we're going to get, and that's going to be the key to unlocking it. All that said, how do you break down Rams at Cowboys?
Yeah, that's a fantastic breakdown. I like Dallas here at home. They've played 2 home games, and they're just a different team at home. They've outscored their opponents 68-13 at home in 2 games. Neither one was close. These Rams, they're 3-4, which is better than what I thought they would be at the start of the season. But 3 of the 4 losses were by at least a touchdown on the road. It's a tough environment, and like you said, the Dallas is going to bring it, and Stafford is not able to get out of the way of teams that bring it. He can get the ball away quickly, but the Cowboys have a great defensive backfield as well. So it's a tough situation for Stafford, and these Cowboys. He's the last 4 times he's played them, he's lost all 4 games and has 8 turnovers himself against Dallas defenses. So going into Big D, that's tough. Dallas coming off their bye. They've been a historically extremely successful team coming off their bye against the spread and overall. They've won 10 straight at home. They've covered in 8 of those 10. I just think this is an extremely tough matchup for the Rams, and I like what they're doing, and I like what they've done. But I think, coming off the bye, a healthy, confident Dak Prescott in Big D, I think it's just too much. And -6.5, that's a great number. I think they cover.
It's funny. The Cowboys usually have an inflated line because of who they are, the national steam they get betting from. I think after a few weeks of disappointment, that line is actually a fair line. And like you said, Dallas, you're there at home, they are significantly better than the Rams. The Rams are doing a great job this year. Sean McVay he gains genius status the more I see him. When he has less, he still does more than we expect. But like you said, this is one where the Cowboys, they are better. They have to win. This is so important for them. And coming out of the bye, they really had to focus the mindset on getting this thing back, because they still have to believe they can compete for the NFC East. So, Adam, we're on that one. Adam, we have one question in the chat. Mateo's asking, Dalvin Cook is frustrated with his role. He is requesting a trade. I don't know if they trade him. Mateo wants to know if we should pick him up in fantasy. What do you think?
He's just not getting used. And now that Breece Hall is healthy, he's getting used less. It seemed like a great pickup at the time when you're the Jets. I drafted Dalvin Cook in at least one of my leagues. I thought, what a great move this would be to get him there with Aaron Rodgers, of course, at the time. None of it has worked. Dalvin Cook, I don't know if he's just slow and old or what's going on there, if he's just not connecting with the coaches. But he's just not getting he's just not getting the touches that worth a real leap.
And I don't see a team giving anything reasonable in trade him. He was a declining back last year. Remember, nobody signed him. He signed right before the season. So it was nobody was willing to do anything with him. And whatever contract he's on, if that goes with him, I don't know any team that's going to pick up money at this point in the season for a declining player. So I would say no.
Yeah, I'd rather have Derrick Henry, who may be on the block, than Dalvin Cook, because Derrick Henry is going to, he needs to be on a team that's going to feed him, and Tennessee's not done a good job of that. I actually just did something on him yesterday, and when he gets 20 carries, when he gets over 15 carries, which is a pretty modest amount, the Titans are 2-0. When he doesn't, they're winless. They're 0-4. So, whatever's happening in Tennessee is not working for anybody. They might blow that thing up, and somebody, can get a one, half season rental, a contender, a Ravens, a Browns, a Cowboys, maybe. Get Derrick Henry, jump on that. I'm definitely picking Derrick Henry over Dalvin Cook. Those are my 2 best options.
Now, one last thing is, you mentioned Derrick Henry and the Titans. Those 2 games were at home. They've been horrible away from their home stadium. This week they're home against Atlanta, and it's just a side point. So this is a week, I know they don't have Ryan Tannehill, but they have been a different team at home. And Derrick Henry this week probably does get fed. So leading to what you said, Adam, those games when he's used, I think they're going to be able to use him. Now, Atlanta's been lights out against the run, so there's that. But Derrick Henry's shown the ability at home to catch. So that's going to be interesting. I love the point you brought up. Adam, tell everybody make that point.
Well, Will Levis is I'm wondering if he'll get a shot, because Malik Willis has looked so bad.
Yes.
Back there in his limited opportunities. He's only second year. He's never really gotten a true fair shake. But boy, he cannot throw the ball, and he just stands there and waits for somebody to get open. By the time he finds somebody, he's on his back. or he's running for his life. So I can't back. I like Tennessee. You know, Derrick Henry should get 35 carries in this game. If it works, he's had a game where he averaged under 2 yards a carry. So, you know, but if it works, you got to keep feeding him, because we don't know what Will Levis has, but we know what Malik Willis has. Ooh. And if he's the top choice going in there, you know, I kind of like Atlanta there.
Yeah, you're very true. I think the expectation is that we'll see Levis, and I think it's smoke about Willis, so the defense prepares for both, because they got a hyper mobile quarterback, you got a more of a pocket quarterback, and I think they're just trying to make it difficult for game planning. But I agree with you. I think Will Levis is the guy here. That doesn't mean much, but that probably is the likelihood.
We don't know what that means, but we know what Malik Willis means. So
yes,
might as well just go with what nobody knows. You can find me at Bookies Adam on Twitter, on Instagram, and bookies.com, of course, bookies.com/picks for all the picks. MLB, got my World Series pickup. Doing well on NBA so far. We're 4-1.
Yes.
And NFL, let's rock it.
Like I tell you, Adam's a documented winner. Make sure you're following him. Make sure you catch him over at bookies.com like he told you. Give him a follow at Bookies Adam, like he said. And every Friday, Adam's here. For Adam Thompson, I'm Jim Coventry. I'll be back Saturday and Sunday. Remember to start Sit Show on Sunday. Everybody have a wonderful day, and we will talk